Now, Dan Geltrude is an accounting professor at Montclair State University. Dan, if you're already planning your lunch for today, here's something you might want to keep in mind. Chipotle is set to expand their restaurants. They're going to bring Mexican food to the Middle East. How do you think this is going to go over?
Well, we'll see. Obviously, Chipotle has been extremely successive. Look, in 2023, the value of their stock is up 50%. They have 3,200 locations in the United States. They have 50 between Europe and Canada. But here goes to the Middle East. They are teaming up with the Al Shaya Group, which is based in Kuwait. And the plan is to open up a location in Kuwait and in Dubai. Now, those two countries are, shall we say, more friendly than some other countries towards the West. So I think it's a strategic decision to do that. And the Al Shaya Group, by the way, has partnered up with both Starbucks and Shake Shack. So there is a history of some success here. So let's see what happens.
Well, you're going to get some of that good queso out there either way. They'll be able to enjoy it. And bottom line, a business that is able to expand obviously might not be doing too bad. Talking about not doing too bad, Bank of America exceeding expectations for their earnings report. Same with JP Morgan last week. But some of the smaller banks, Dan, are struggling. Even folding, like Silicon Valley Bank, which you remember. Can you talk about this, big banks versus small banks, and what's really happening here? Are interest rates playing a factor in this?
Sure. So the interest rates are absolutely a factor here, particularly with the smaller to mid-sized banks, because what was happening there is you basically had interest rate shock. The banks were not prepared, or at least some banks were not prepared for interest rates to be going up so quickly. And as a result, it put an enormous amount of stress on the banks. Now, when we're talking about the large banks like Bank of America, obviously we want to see these banks doing well, and they are. The interest rates, okay, are probably assisting in that matter. But here's the truth of the situation here. They're too big to fail. So we need the big banks to do well. We need all the banks to do well. But when big banks are struggling, guess who's going to have to bail them out? You and I.
All right. Not a good time for that to happen. Dan, wanted to ask you about this. Dollar General was fined $21 million by OSHA for hazardous working conditions. Business Insider's reporting they've only paid $4 million of that fine. What's happening here? Any chance they're getting off the hook?
I don't think they're getting off the hook. As a matter of fact, you could be talking about criminal charges here and having people go to jail unless they straighten out this situation, both by paying the fines and by cleaning up the stores. What's happening here is that they're saying they're a severe violator, per OSHA, of clutter in their stores, and it's making it dangerous for shoppers. Now, their position, meaning the Dollar General, their position is we don't have enough people in order to keep the clutter in line. And that's why we're having so much trouble here. But still, the fact remains, you can't have customers going into a store in an unsafe environment. And that's why OSHA is stepping in here and saying, listen, you got to straighten this out. We may see a situation where some of these stores are going to be closed. And I don't think anybody wants that to happen. So my advice to Dollar General, pay your fine and clean up your stores.
Dan Geltrude there with the advice, accounting professor at Montclair State University. Dan, good to see you. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Earlier